الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. The Prophet ﷺ, as it was reported on the authority of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who said that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, لا يجتمعان في قلب عبد الإيمان والحسد. On the authority of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who said that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that two things will not be united in the heart of a true believer, and that is al-iman wal-hasad, true faith and envy. True faith and envy cannot be united in the heart of one believer. And this hadith was collected in the Sunan of Imam an-Nasa'i. As a person's iman begins to plummet, he would love nothing more than to see the one whom he is envious of be leveled with him or beneath him. As we talked about, one of the levels of envy is to see the person to be just like you. You want the person to be on your level. All right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ وَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ كَمَا كَفَرُوا فَتَكُونُوا سَوَاءً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the mushrikun, the kuffar of Quraysh, they would love nothing more than to see you disbelieve, just as they disbelieve, فَتَكُونُوا سَوَاءً, so y'all can be on the same level. All right? And you'll see that, like when a person starts to lose their faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a believer, Muslim, and as he has weak faith, his iman begins to plummet. He begins to engage in sin that begins to cause his iman to decrease. Anybody that is around him or her, what they try to do is pull them down right along with him. He knows that he ain't nothing. He knows that he ain't striving to be anything. So anyone that is around them that exudes any type of level of faith, of God consciousness, they try to pull that away from them. That could either be by mocking you, making fun of you, making you feel like, oh, you're the good brother. MashaAllah, sound like I'm good brother. Trying to make you feel like doing the right thing is wrong. All right? It's a very dangerous quality. All right? A person that has weak faith cannot stand to be around people who have stronger faith than they do. It makes them uncomfortable. I literally know brothers, when they see me coming, they run. And I'm not saying that to say that my iman is strong or I have this, higher level of faith. That might be their perception. But the fact that they perceive you as such is an indication of where they are in terms of their faith. Whereas a person who has strong faith, a person whose faith is solid, is, sustained, they want to be around people who believe. They want to be around people who have stronger faith than they do. They want to find themselves strengthened by other people's faith. All right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَدُّوا لَوْ تَكْفُرُونَ كَمَا كَفَرُوا فَتَكُونُوا سَوَاءً. They would wish that you would disbelieve just like they disbelieve, so that you would be equal. فَتَكُونُوا سَوَاءً. And it is because of this, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, أَسْتَطِيَتْ أَنْ أُرْدِ النَّاسِ جَمِيعَهُمْ إِلَّا حَاسِدَ النِّعْمَةِ فَإِنَّهُ لَا يُرْضِيهِ إِلَّا زَوَالُهَا وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ الْحَاسِدْ لَا يَرْضَى إِلَّا زَوَالْ نِعْمَتِهِ. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, very profound words. Listen to what he said. He said, I have the ability to please everyone with the exception of a person who is envious. I can please anybody. I can earn the good graces of anybody with the exception of the envious individual. Nothing will please him except the absolute removal of every blessing that I have. He will never be satisfied until the blessing that they are envious of you for is you're completely stripped of it. He said, أَسْتَطِيعَ أَنْ أُرْدِ النَّاسِ جَمِيعَهُمْ إِلَّا حَاسِدِ النِّعْمَةِ فَلَا يُرْضِيهِ إِلَّا زَوَالُهَا. He said, I have the ability to win the good graces of everyone, with the exception of an envious individual. Nothing will satisfy him except the removal of the blessing for which he is envious.
Can you recite the hadith one more time?
Yes, the narration, it's not a hadith, something Muawiyah said. Muawiyah said, أستطيع أن أرضي الناس جميعهم إلا حاسد النعمة فإنه لا يرضيه إلا زوالها. And so let's look at some of the asbab, some of the reasons why people are envious. And, maybe we find ourselves in any one of these categories. As I said before, ma'rifatul illa nisful ilaj. Understanding your dilemma, understanding your disease is half of your cure. Understanding your disease is half of your cure. You ever stop and sit back and ask yourself, why do I do some of the stuff that I do? Why do I feel about some people the way that I feel about them? Wallah al-Azim, there's nothing that we should be striving for except to walk on this earth not having anything in our heart for another human being. That's the ultimate goal. When a man came to the Prophet ﷺ to complain about another companion, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't want to hear it. He said, because I want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with nothing in my chest for any one of my companions. He said, Shaitan couldn't find someone other than you to bring me this. Go away. I want to leave this world, leave this dunya with nothing but good thoughts in my mind about my companions. This is how we should be striving for. But we entertain a lot of this stuff. Oh, yo, guess what happened? It's like, yo, if it's negative, I don't even want to hear it. Don't even bring it to me. If it's negative, I don't want to hear it. I work too hard to get myself in a space where I'm happy, where I'm contented, I'm humble. I work too hard to get myself to this place. I'm not going to let you or anyone else pull me out of my square. Sorry. I don't want to hear it. All right. So let's talk about some of the asbab, some of the reasons that would drive a person to be envious. Number one, one of the reasons why people are envious is the desire to be above everyone else. They don't want anybody to have anything above them. So anyone that seems like they come remotely close to what they have in terms of status, money, whatever, they're going to envy you because they want to be exclusive. They want to function in a realm, in a zone all by themselves. And anyone that looks like they're coming remotely close to what they have, they envy you for it. I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen, students of knowledge come and go. I've seen some students of knowledge become overnight successes. They have the likable factor. Allah gave it to them. There's nothing that you or I or anybody else, not even the person, could have done. They just become overnight successes. It's like, where did this individual come from? We have people who work on the ground being da'is, imams for years before they get any level of recognition from the Muslim community. And then there's some that come out of nowhere and just ascend, rise to stardom, rise to, popularity. And I mean, that just comes with the territory, right? And some people can't handle that. Some people can't handle that. There's some people who engage in politics, right? You trying to be a politician in your locality and your municipality, you rubbing shoulders with this one and that one, never really quite made it in the realm of politics. And then out of nowhere, here comes this other individual and just rise in the realm, in the field of politics. And you're envious of the person because you're like, yo, I put in all of this work. And here this nobody comes out of nowhere. Where did he go to school? Where did he do this? We started looking for reasons to discredit them, right? Same way students are now, well, who did he study with? Well, how many years was he there? Well, I know brothers that was there. They don't even know who he is. You understand what I'm saying? They do the same thing. Trying to find any reason to discredit you instead of just allowing the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take its place. You can't stop that. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed popularity for someone, you and your hatred and your envy of that person is not going to stop it. You're going to kill yourself. As I said, it's like drinking poison, waiting for the other person to die. You're killing yourself softly. So the desire to be above everyone. So when someone we know attains a particular status that may place them above us, whether in marriage, whether in money, children, status, all right, there's an element of envy that may exist with people who feel like you don't have a right to be above me. Who are you to be above me? Right? Who are you? Like Fir'aun said to the magicians, do you prostrate to the God of Musa before I gave you permission to do so? It's like with some people, you need their permission to rise. You need their permission to rise. I don't need your permission to rise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raises people. He is Ar-Rafi'. That is one of his names, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the raiser. And he is Al-Khafid. He is also the one who humiliates and lowers you. Leave that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We say, oh, he's not sincere. We start, speculating about the person's internal, his heart. Oh, he's not sincere. Oh, the brother loves this. He loves the attention. He loves this. He loves that, or whatever. You start speculating about people's internal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows if a person is sincere or not. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if he raises you for a minute, eventually what goes up must come down. He will humiliate you. Let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do his job. We're going to do Allah's job for him. I'm going to humiliate the brother for him because he's not sincere. He's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. Right? So I'm going to do that job. And you end up humiliating yourself in the process. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about death, إِذَا جَاءَ أَهُمُ الْأَمْرُ لَا يَسْتَأْخِرُونَ السَّاعَةَ وَلَا يَسْتَقْدِمُونَ. That when your time comes, and although the ayat is in reference to death, let's look at it in the context in which I'm using it. He said, when a person's time comes, لا يستقدمون الساعة, they cannot hasten it forward, ولا يستأخرون, nor can they delay it. When your time comes, you cannot push it forward, you cannot make it happen before it's time, nor can you delay it. That's totally in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's some people who can't handle someone being above them. This was the case of Quraysh with the Prophet ﷺ. They said, لولا نزل هذا القرآن على رجل من القريتين عظيم. They said, how could, if what he is bringing of revelation is actually true, then why would God give it to him and not two men from Mecca or Ta'if, two righteous men from amongst themselves? And some of them speculated about who it was, Ibn Mughira, Ibn Abdul Yalil min Ta'if, or Habib ibn Amr al-Thaqafi. They said, well, if God was going to send revelation now, why would he send it to this guy instead of this one or this one? All right, you don't get to determine, where God puts his blessings. That's totally up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows where, as Allah says in the Quran, وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ حَيْثُ يَجْعَلُ رِسَالَةَ. Allah knows where to put his message. So if Allah put his message in the heart and in the mouth of a particular individual, even though we are not fond of that individual, we have absolutely no control over where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to put his message. Allah is going to use that individual. Why Allah chose him, who knows? You got your personal feelings about the individual, but Allah, at the end of the day, chooses. Allah chooses, you don't. And when Allah chooses, we have to just say, you know what? Allah gave it to him. It's nothing. I can't be mad at that. You know what I mean? I can't be mad at that. When you see younger students graduating from these universities coming back to America, I mean, for someone who has been in the realm of giving dawah and things like that, some people get, they start getting afraid because they see this younger student coming. He's up and coming. He's giving a couple of lectures here and there, and he's, creating a name for himself. And then, you start to feel like this person is about to outshine me. You got to let the inevitable take its place. Because quiet is kept. Some of us should have put the mic down a long time ago. Including myself. I'm looking for my exit right now. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to smoothly slide out. But at the end of the day, some of us should have put the microphone down a long time ago. We've had a long run. The shelf life of an imam or a da'i is about 10 years. Did you know that? You got about a 10-year run. A good imam, good da'i on the sunnah. You got about a 10-year run. Shelf life. After that, put the microphone down, man. Hang it up. Get into something else. Get into business. Get into, building up, up and coming students. Find another profession. But when you got too many people trying to function in this little realm, everybody vying for that popularity, we're creating a situation. So Quraysh, they felt the same way about the Prophet ﷺ. They felt like, we're here. How could God choose someone as lowly as him to be a messenger? You don't get to choose. All right. Number two, from the reasons that a person would be envious is seeing yourself as more than what you are. Seeing yourself, self-aggrandizement, to see yourself to be larger than what you really are. Right? Self-aggrandizement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قَالُوا وَمَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا وَمَا أَنزَلَ الرَّحْمَنِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا تَكْذِبُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they say, and you are nothing more than a messenger just like us. You are nothing more than a messenger just like us. Nothing more than a human being just like us. You're a human being just like I'm a human being. All right? We see ourselves to be larger than what we really are. Right? I've heard people say this to prominent imams. He's a human being just like he put his shoe on just like I put my shoe on. Nah, brother. Nah. There's a difference. Huge difference between you who wake up every morning, wake up every Friday morning, make a ghusl, read Surah Al-Kahf, come to the masjid to listen to the khutbah, and someone who does everything that you just did and prepares the khutbah, right? What you do and some. Big difference. Difference between somebody who get up Friday morning, make a ghusl, read Surah Al-Kahf, get to the masjid early, does all of that. And then an imam who's up all night, praying tahajjud, preparing the khutbah, gets up in the morning, makes a ghusl, reads Surah Al-Kahf, and comes to the masjid to deliver the khutbah that you came to listen to. So don't give me that you put on your shoe just like I put on my right foot first, just like I put on my... Nah, man. Nah. There's a huge difference. Huge difference. And everybody has their virtue, but sometimes we see ourselves to be larger than what we really are, man. So they say, وَقَالُوا مَا أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُنَا. You are nothing more than a human being just like us. All right, this was their retort. This was their response to the messengers when they would come to them. You are nothing more than a human being just like us. And Ar-Rahman, all right, Ar-Rahman did not send down anything, any such thing to you. Indeed, you are a liar. All right? So sometimes we become envious of people when we see ourselves to be larger than what we really are. Humble yourself, man. Humble yourself, man. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a status, then let Allah give you that status. You don't choose that for yourself. Let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose that for you. All right? But humble yourself. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, مَا تَوَاضَعَ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. No one humbles himself to Allah except that Allah will raise him in degrees. Allah will raise you. Number 3 is to fear that someone will compete with you in a virtue that you believe is exclusively for you. Exclusivity. The human being's downfall. Man's greatest downfall is believing that this is exclusively mine. Right? Yusuf alayhi salam, he said to his brothers, with قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا وَمِنَّا وَنَحْنُ أُصْبَةٌ إِنَّ أَبَانَا لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. I remember when the brothers of Yusuf said that indeed Yusuf and his brother Binyamin, because Yusuf and Binyamin, they had a different mother. Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam, he had 4 wives. He had children from 2 of them. All right, Rachel or Rahil was the mother of Yusuf and Binyamin, while his other wives had the other 11 kids, 11 children. So they believed that Yusuf and his brother were more beloved to the father than them, believing that their place with the father, with Yaqub, was more exclusive for them, and Binyamin and Yusuf was competing in something with that they believed was exclusively for them. And they were envious of them because of that. They said that indeed Yusuf and his brother أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ أُصْبَةٌ. They said that Yusuf and his brother are more beloved to our father than we are, and we are greater in number. وَنَحْنُ أُصْبَةٌ Inna nara abana fi dalalin mubin. We see our father to be astray, to favor Yusuf and his brother over us, and we are greater and larger in number. Meaning they believed that that was exclusive for them. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about women, something very detrimental even with women, because they believe that the man that they are married to, that man is exclusively theirs. Right. We're about to open up a can of worms here. Women are married to men, or for those of our listeners that are not Muslim. Let me broaden the scope. Let me broaden the context a little bit. Let's expand this so it reaches out to more than just Muslim women. Women tend to believe that the man that you are with is exclusively your man, right? We have titles that we put on these men. My man. This is my man, right? Go get your own man, all right? And women are naturally territorial, all right? Because in most instances, a woman only wants one man. So when she finds that one man, it's exclusively hers. But what she's not realizing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create the man or wire the man to desire one woman. So although he might be your man in your mind, he belongs to, several other women as well. I mean, while non-Muslim women might condemn Muslim women for going into the practice of polygyny, the fact of the matter is that you are in polygyny. You just don't realize it. Or you do, but you choose to ignore it, right? Yeah, your man has more. But the difference between the Muslim man is at least he has more than one wife, right? That women that he's claiming, women that he takes care of, women that he honors by bringing them in front of the community as his wife. Whereas your man is your man, but he also has a mistress, he also has a girlfriend, he also has a side piece, side chick, jump off, or whatever term or slang you want to use. That he doesn't honor, he doesn't respect, all right? So while women are, very territorial with their men, at the end of the day, men are not necessarily territorial, all right, when it comes to women. That's just the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wired us. There's nothing wrong with a man that chooses to be with more than one woman. We label him as a dog. We label him as chauvinistic. We label him as this and that, irresponsible, and all of the other terms, labels that we put on him for just doing what is natural that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him to do. We are condemning him, shaming him for being what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created him to be, living up to a man-made standard. A man-made standard. Monogamy is a man-made standard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create monogamy. We created that. We created that. And we trying to fit a human being, a creature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created to be polygynous by nature, cookie cutting him and fitting him into a mold, a man-made standard that he was never designed to fit into from the beginning. Arguably, people can argue and say, well, I don't agree with that. You cannot agree with that. The state of our ummah as Muslims and the state of men around the world tells a different story. So you can say all day long, I don't agree with that. He's talking off his rocker. That's crazy. I don't want to listen to him no more. You can say whatever the heck you want to say. At the end of the day, I'm a man, and I'm telling you, there's men, African-American men, that are going to Brazil right now. All right? Let's be real about that. The status, read the statistics of African-American men that are taking trips to Brazil and other places, right, to do. And I'm not saying that men should be irresponsible. I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying that if we were to step back for a second outside of our own little bubble and see this creature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for who he is, and we'll stop trying to fit him into a standard that he was never created to live up to from the beginning. So fear that someone will compete with you in something that you believe is exclusively yours. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تسألوا المرأة طلاق أختها لتستفرغ صحفتها فإنما لها ما قدر لها رواه Bukhari wa Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said, no woman should ask for the divorce of her co-wife so that she can make off with all of her husband's money to herself, for indeed she will only have what Allah decreed for her to have. Let me break this hadith down for you real quick. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that if a man has multiple wives, one wife should not put a request in to her husband for him to divorce her co-wife, so that she can make off with all of his money to herself, which is usually the argument with women when the topic of polygyny comes up. We don't have the money for it. Right? Which means that your money is my money, and bringing another woman into our situation takes what I believe is exclusively for me and giving it to someone else. That I cannot have. And then you have some Muslim men, with all due respect, who buy into that. Who buy into that. Well, I don't really got it financially like that. You ain't gonna never have it like that financially. You ain't gonna never have it like that financially. Not in this lifetime. Most of the men that are in polygyny that I know of that are in polygyny can't afford it. Most of us can't afford monogamy, let alone polygyny. So then a woman can say, well, then why do you encourage it? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages it. Not only that, there's a shortage of men. Sister, if you didn't take a look around you and noticed, there's a shortage of men. The pool is very shallow. So if we didn't encourage polygyny, there would be a whole bunch of women out here that would never enjoy the construct or the institution of marriage. So if we said monogamy is the status, one man for one woman, and our male to female ratio right now here in America alone might be 5-to-1. Might be 5-to-1. I went to Montclair State University last year to give a lecture. I asked the brothers on campus, I said, what is the female to male ratio on campus? He said 10-to-1. That means for every 10 women on campus, there's only one male. To every 10 women on campus. And then you have parents that are telling their children who are on campus looking to get married, be patient until you finish your studies. With a 10-to-1 ratio, you're telling your son to be patient. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. When does that advice ever make sense in a situation like that? The Prophet ﷺ told the young men in his community, Ya ma'shar al-shabab min istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. O group of young men, whoever from amongst you has the ability to get married, then let him do so. He didn't say be patient. He said if you have the ability to get married, then do so. Marriage matures a man. You want a man to mature quick? Put him in a situation where he has to take care of somebody other than himself, and he'll mature very quickly. Most of us would not be the men that we are today had it not been for the previous relationships that we were in. If left by ourselves, we would continue to be young, old children, right? Because we have an extended adolescence. We don't actually become adults until we're about 40. And even then, we're still playing video games and still doing childish stuff, being irresponsible. But when we go into a relationship with a woman in a marriage where we are now responsible for somebody other than ourselves, emotionally, physically, psychologically, we are emotionally responsible for somebody else, that matures you very quickly. You mature very quickly. Because it's not just about you. You now have to cater to somebody else. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying that no woman should ask for her sister's divorce so that she can make off with the man's money all to herself. فَإِنَّمَا لَهَا مَا قُدِّرَ لَهَا. For indeed she will only have what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed for her to have. Meaning, even if the husband decides, you know what, I'm not going to take another wife because I don't have the money, it's not going to mean that you're going to have more money. You're still going to have what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for you to have. Number 4, from the reasons of envy, is the love of status and position. The love, hubb al-riyasa, to love status and position. قال العلماء ذلك كالرجل الذي يريد أن يكون عديم النذير في الفن من الفنون إذا غلب عليه حب الثناء والمدح وفرح بما يمدح به فإنه إذا سمع بنذير له في أقصى من أقطار الدنيا لساءه ذلك وأحب موته وزوال تلك النعمة. The scholars say that the love of status, may cause a person to be envious of another. He said an example of this is a man who's become very proficient in a particular field. All right? And he loves the praises that he received in that field, the praises and the glorification that he receives in that field. He said, and if he hears about someone who is on his level and is receiving the same level of praise, even if it's from the lowest edge of the world, the furthest edge of the world, he would desire nothing but his death and for that blessing to be removed from him. Even though the person is nowhere near you in terms of proximity. But the fact that the person is receiving the same level of praise for the same thing that you are doing, you want the person dead or you want the blessing to be taken from him. Another reason for envy is just being a plain malignant narcissist. All right? Khubth an-nafs. That you are just narcissistic. A malignant narcissist sells a piece of his soul or her soul with every evil choice that they make. So by the time that they reach adulthood, they are soulless creatures. It's a narcissist. A malignant narcissist. With every choice, decision that they make in their childhood, they are selling a piece of their soul. So by the time they reach adulthood, they are some soulless creatures. A narcissist is someone who makes the world all about them. All right, you start off a conversation with a person and then we always end up talking about you. It's like, how did this conversation become about you? But everything becomes about them. Everything. So these are adults that are soulless creatures, completely empty on the inside. And since they lack the soul, or lack a soul, they want to make sure that others are without one. So they work very diligently to steal the soul and to corrupt the souls of other people that are around them. وقال العلماء وهذا النوع من الحسد أعمهم وأخبثها وإذا ليس بصاحبه راحة ولا رضاغة ولا رضاغيات. The ulama say that this is the worst type of envy that a person can have, is that the person has made the whole world centered around them and their needs and their desires. He said, and this type of person is the worst type of person because this person never has any internal peace. Never has any internal peace. There's no goal or limit to their satisfaction or pleasure. What they envy most is the vitality and the enthusiasm of other people around them. You know what I said? What do they envy the most? The vitality and the enthusiasm of the people that are around them. They see people happy. They see people enjoying life. And that angers them. It bothers them so much that they want to corrupt everybody's life that is around them because they can't stand to see someone with a soul while they don't have one. Soulless individuals, and they will corrupt children. These are the type of people that molest and rape children because they don't have a soul. So they figure, if I molest this child, if I rape this child, I will destroy this child's happiness for the rest of that child's life. And they walk away smiling, knowing that they have done that. Knowing that they have done that. It's not the act of molestation that they are interested in. It is the act of destroying somebody else's happiness. Right? And this is a very dangerous type of person. So their deficiencies are shown up by the desires and the vitality of other people. When they see other people happy, enjoying life, it angers them, it bothers them. They are soulless creatures and they can't stand to see other people happy. That is what they envy. They envy the vitality and the enthusiasm of other people, and they will stop at nothing to destroy that or to steal that away from you. Don't let people like this around you, man. Don't let people like this around your family. People who are just always miserable. And they will stop at nothing to make everybody else around them miserable just like they are. And last but not least, the main cause of envy amongst people, and that is love of the dunya. Love of the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and know that the life of this world is nothing but la'ibun wa lahwun, play and amusement, wa zina and beautification and adornment, wa tafakhurun bainakum, and bragging and boasting between you, wa takathurum, and the acquisition of wealth and children. That is what the life of this world is all about. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ instructed the man when he asked, Ya Rasulullah, dullani ala amalan idha amiltuhu ahabbani Allah wa ahabbani an-nas. O Messenger of Allah, direct me to a deed that if I do it, people will love me and Allah will love me. Showing you that it's natural to both want to please Allah, but also want to have the love and respect of other people. There's nothing wrong with that. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, ازهد في الدنيا يحبك الله ازهد ما فيما عند الناس يحبك الناس. Stay away from the dunya, the world of this life of this world, and Allah will love you. And stay away from the things that people covet, and the people will love you. When you don't compete with someone in their dunya, when a person doesn't feel like you are a threat to them and their worldly possessions and their worldly status, they'll love you all day long. The moment they feel like you are a threat, they will hate you. They will hate you. All right? So the advice of the Prophet ﷺ was just so profound. He said, Izhad fi dunya yuhibbuk Allah. Stay away from the dunya and Allah will love you. And stay away from the things that the people covet, the thing that the people desire, ardently desire. Stay away from those things and the people will love you. And inshallah ta'ala, I'll end here. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. I'll open up for a few minutes for questions and answers, inshallah ta'ala.